You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you for once again coming back to our weekend Cabral HouseCalls. We're going to be answering our community's questions on all things wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging. As always, we've got some amazing questions today, a bunch of different labs that people have asked my advice on. I'm happy to share with you those suggestions, recommendations that I do have. So really looking forward to today's show. We've got today and tomorrow to answer about 10 to 12 different questions from our community that come in each and every week. So without further ado, let's get right into it today. The first question is actually from Asheley. She was asking, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I enjoy listening to your podcast. I'm interested in purchasing a lab test, specifically the Hormone and Adrenal Package or the Organic Acids test, or both, and eventually other tests. I recently took a blood test and found out that I have mild anemia and my thyroid is on the low side of normal. My menstrual cycle is very irregular. My period can last for about 2 weeks with a lot of spotting for days and a few days of consistently heavy bleeding with clots. I have fibrocystic breasts, so I avoid caffeine when I can, and the pain has diminished. I have skin problems as well, including acne on my shoulders and back, hyperpigmentation from acne scars on my face, back, and shoulders, some eczema between my fingers, and occasional boil on my back. I've considered the GAPS diet, but don't know where to start. It seems difficult to maintain a GAPS diet." And then Ashley goes on to go over her labs. And Ashley, I have read over your labs. I'm just going to read them all right now over this podcast. But of course, everyone can see these by just simply going to stephencabral.com/podcast and just clicking on our latest show. Okay, so then her questions are, "I know I have mild anemia and I probably have estrogen dominance or hormonal imbalance and candida overgrowth or imbalanced gut flora. My questions are, which lab test should I order first? For the hormone adrenal test, when should I take the test? For my menstrual cycle is so irregular that I do not know consistently when is 5 to 7 days before day 1 of my cycle. Can I just take it any day that I have not got my period? What foods and supplements do you suggest for balancing hormones? Thank you for your help." Okay, so we've got a bunch of questions in here. And yes, it does look like your red blood cells are not quite as oxygenated as they should be. And yes, that can be an iron-based issue, but keep in mind, your red blood cells may not be getting the oxygen they need. Besides iron, they also need B vitamins. They need vitamin C. They need copper. They need calcium. They may need magnesium. So all of those things do matter. That's important. And yes, you may have all of the things that you described, but really what we need to do is say, where should you start with all of these particular issues? I think that's the bigger thing right now. And for anyone with acne, anyone with eczema, anyone who's got, getting boils on their skin, really yes, hormones, it is important without a doubt. But in my opinion, we probably want to look at an actual food sensitivity test as well as the organic acid test before we're doing the hormonal testing. And one of those reasons is that we should go to one of the deeper root causes of inflammation as well as unclean blood, as we'll call it, and that's from increased gut permeability or gut-based issues, meaning overgrowth of bacteria, overgrowth of yeast. That can affect everything in the body. So that would be my first recommendation is food sensitivity test and organic acid test. Third would be the hormone test. And yes, you can do the hormone test. What I would do is simply say, okay, once you do get your period, wait about 14 to 21 days and then just run the test so that you know you're pretty much out of the follicular phase of your menstrual cycle and more towards the luteal phase. And once you're in that luteal phase, well, at that point, estrogen levels should be lower, progesterone levels should be higher. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to just get it right on day 21, day 22, day 23. Somewhere within the last week or so is totally acceptable. And for you as well, I'd want to see what your cortisol levels and testosterone levels are as well, just because you seem like you might tend towards higher cortisol and higher testosterone as well. So hopefully that answers your question, Ashley, and we'll be happy to read over those labs when they do come in and then provide you with more personalized recommendations. Excellent. Let's move on to Elizabeth. She wrote in, "Hi, I've noticed that my body reacts negatively to green tea with stomach cramps, constipation, inflammation, etc. Do you know why this is possible and what can I replace green tea with? I'm trying to stay away from coffee, plus I've heard all of the good properties it has, but my body seems to hate when I use it. Thank you for all the information you are providing. I've learned so much, and I'm still learning more from you. I'm listening to all your old podcasts from the beginning. Thank you, thank you, thank you." Elizabeth, thank you, and we appreciate you going back to listen to those podcasts. My highest recommendation, I really believe that if you listen to all the podcasts from the beginning, or at least episode 100 until today, you will have a tremendous education, I believe, just in health and wellness overall. So here's some issues around drinking green tea. It is not for everyone, meaning that there are tannins in green tea, there are oxalates in green tea, there are lectins in green tea. Green tea is much more alkaline than coffee. And these things can upset the stomach. Now, you might say, well, how is alkaline going to upset my stomach? Well, it probably won't unless you're mixing it with something else, like a food-based meal, that it just doesn't feel that your stomach isn't compatible with it. So now, do I recommend green tea in my practice? Sure. For the right people, absolutely. I mean, it's great for detoxification. It has very powerful antioxidants in it. It's typically a much better choice than coffee. It has less of a hard caffeine spike, more of a gradual spike, less of a crash. So yes, there's tremendous benefits to drinking green tea, but it does not work with everyone, and just for some of those reasons that I just named. And one of the other things is that for someone like myself who just leans towards, it's called Th2 immunity, as well as higher histamine production, green tea does not work for me. Now, again, this is just me. I'm not saying it for everyone, because what happens is it pushes Th2 the immune side of the system a little stronger, a little harder. And the other thing that it does, which is kind of interesting, is that it's a DAO blocker. So that means in your body, you produce this enzyme called diamine oxidase, and that actually helps to degrade histamines. Well, since genetically I'm a overproducer of mast cells and also histamines in general, I just have to be careful of these high histamine foods and just not eating them to excess. I can certainly have them, just not to excess. So what would I recommend for you? Well, absolutely, without a doubt, my favorite tea to recommend in the world is ginger tea. It really is. It's a great digestive aid. It's good as a intestinal and kidney cleanser. It's remarkable for what it also can do in terms of anti-cancer. Who are the only people I wouldn't recommend ginger tea for? Well, for the most part, it's just people with acid reflux, or they're producing potentially too much acid at the moment. So Elizabeth, hopefully that helps. And I know you're going to get lots more answers as you continue to listen through the previous Cabral concepts. All right, Thomas is up next. Thomas is saying, "Hello, Dr. Cabral. Love your show. As I get in my 40s, I've noticed more and more white spots on my skin popping up, especially in the arms. Is there anything that can be done about that, or is it just what happens as you get older? Can it be reversed? Thanks." Okay, Thomas, here's the thing. Usually, if we're talking about raised white spots, a lot of that is food-based reactions. Okay, when do I see it the most? When I see children and teenagers with these raised white bumps on the back of their shoulders or arms, I'm thinking right away dairy sensitivity. And if not dairy sensitivity, gluten or potentially egg, but almost always dairy sensitivity. Now, could this come on as an adult? Absolutely, for sure, without a doubt. But I see that more in children. If we're just talking about not a raised white dot, but rather a white spot on the skin. Well, that's been associated for many, many years with a underlying fungal-based infection, fungal-based issue that can, again, proliferate with time. It's also been shown to correlate with low zinc or minerals in general, but typically zinc. So you could certainly simply try 15 to 30 milligrams of a zinc picolinate with dinner each night. That would be totally fine. But in my opinion, what I would do is I would just simply use something like the Dr. Cabral Daily Protocol, where you're getting your 50 billion CFU of healthy gut bacteria, you're getting 22 organic fruits and vegetables, and then you're getting a full multivitamin and mineral shake that has your protein in it as well every day that's taking care of your zinc, your copper. It's all completely balanced. I mean, like literally, this is beyond balance. It's functional and medicine based, which means I chose the exact amount of copper and the exact amount of zinc so that they would balance each other out. And calcium, magnesium, all those great things. And then also, you need your vitamin A and vitamin C for skin repair. So if you're not getting natural vitamin A, you're not getting your vitamin C, well, then you're not going to be able to keep up with tissue turnover. And especially as you age, that gets so much more important. So you could certainly run a food sensitivity test for the dairy, the gluten, the eggs, mainly the dairy. Again, just eat those foods for 1 to 2 days before you take the test. Take the IgG test. We'll link that up in today's show notes. So again, as always, in the show notes, all you're really doing is looking for the link to click on. It takes you right to our online community store. So literally, this is my practice online. So whatever I'm doing in my offline practice, I'm simply saying, okay, how can we get this online for people so that they can purchase the same exact labs at the best possible price? And not only that, I review their lab, and then they get a 30-minute call with one of my health coaches. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I believe it's one of the best services that we do offer. So again, today's show would simply be going to stevencabral.com/526. Okay, let's move on to our next question. And it's from Anonymous. They write in, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. What is your opinion on oxalates and the excessive consumption of dark leafy greens? My diet is heavy with the daily consumption of green smoothies, in juices, in salads with bitter greens, in cooked greens. Is this something that should be concerning? Also, what is your opinion on alkaloids? I rotate my greens weekly to avoid overconsumption. Should I be concerned as well? Many thanks." Okay, so Anonymous, honestly, this is really where bioindividuality comes in. If you were looking again at just someone like myself, who's a lot more sensitive to certain foods, which I'll talk about in a moment, which are those alkali-based foods, you want to look at that. But I never eliminate high oxalate foods in someone's diet. Really, if they have a history of kidney stones, sure, I'll look at that. But for the most part, I see in my practice, kidney stones really being formed by excessive calcium excretion, high levels of LDH on a blood test, high levels of cortisol, high levels of norepinephrine, where their body's literally breaking down bone and muscle tissue, pulling a lot more calcium into the actual bloodstream. And then your kidneys, of course, being all clogged up with calcium in general, which is not meant to filter that type of high level of calcium. Now, some people are sensitive to oxalates, so I won't deny that. And so what I'll do at that point is I'll just say, okay, we need to really, for at least 12 weeks, start to eliminate the beans and the beer and the berries, mainly the darker colored, like blueberries, things like that. Chocolate, coffee, cranberry, the dark leafy greens like you spoke about as well, such as spinach, most nuts in general, some citrus fruits, soy, black tea, tofu. So yeah, there's a lot to obviously look through and eliminate. And that's why when I put someone on an elimination-based diet, I'm already eliminating specific foods that would feed gut bacteria or yeast. I don't want to then take away high oxalate foods as well. So one other thing to keep in mind is I run the organic acids test all the time. And one thing you'll find is that people who have high levels of candida and or bacterial overgrowth, the human body also produces its own oxalates. So don't think that it's only coming from food. So when I test someone who's high in oxalates, 9 out of 10 times, they're also high in yeast or fungal overgrowth. So we know that it's probably not a food-based issue, could be, but probably a more of a candida yeast-based overgrowth. My highest recommendation is to lower the overall cortisol levels, eliminate that excess candida overgrowth. Oxalates are then typically not a problem, but again, it's bioindividuality. What is too much for one person may be nothing for another. And then alkaloids, how I'm looking at alkaloids in general would be more again, we could not be on the same page in terms of this. But what I would simply say is when I'm looking at it in terms of nightshades, and again, if this isn't answering your question, always just feel free to write in again. But I realized, so essentially there's 4 main groups of alkaloid groups in nightshades. There's tropane, there's indols, there's something called pyrrolizidine, and then there's a steroid-based group to that. And so, these are used in all sorts of drugs. They're used in all sorts of different naturally occurring foods. So what I would say is this: nightshades are one of those things that can cause inflammation and an immune-based reaction in some people. With a history of rheumatoid arthritis, meaning like all 4 of my grandparents and both of my parents have rheumatoid arthritis, essentially, or my parents had it and now it's in remission. So, because again, with natural health, you can put these things in remission, AKA you don't have it anymore. So here's the issue though, myself included, susceptible to getting that inflammatory response when eating nightshades. What are nightshades? Well, they're a particular food group that comprises mainly tomatoes, peppers, goji berries, potatoes in general, eggplant. So those are some of the main ones, and those are the ones that I just have to stay away from for the most part. And I want to add one more thing to that. So I eat nightshade foods. You'll see me eat tomatoes sometimes. You will see me eat potatoes sometimes. The issue is I just don't overdo it. It might be like once a week or twice a week, and that's it. And it doesn't seem to be a problem. But if I'm having those for 3 or 4 days in a row, all of a sudden I might just start to feel a little bit more systemic inflammation, and then it goes right to my thumbs. That's like the dead giveaway. The first knuckle basically on my thumb starts to feel that specific type of inflammation. And that then is a kind of dead giveaway for me. Okay, my body's inflamed. I'm down the path leading towards that rheumatoid or whatever the immune-based factor is. So again, a nightshade essentially is poisonous to my body, but for most people, again, it's never going to be an issue. Okay, hopefully that helps. Bettina is up next. Bettina says, "Hi, thanks for all your amazing help. I did your 21-day detox about a month ago, and it was life-changing. I thought I was healthy before doing it, so I didn't know what to expect, and you exceeded my expectations." Thank you, Bettina. Happy to hear that. "My body has even more energy, and my brain seems so much clearer. So to continue this amazing feeling, I now do your shake in the morning and greens powder too. I'm experiencing a problem that really needs some help. I've been taking the greens powder and shake every morning for the last 3 weeks. About 2 weeks ago, I started having gas problems. I know it's not the shake because I never had it while doing the detox. Previous to the detox, I ate a very plant-based diet and no gluten. One of the things I do find amazing since going off gluten a couple of years ago and sticking to a plant-based diet with protein at night was how little gas I created. But now it was returned to the point that the smell is waking me up at night. Unfortunately, my husband too. I find that legumes give me gas too, so I never do them now or prior to the detox. So I so want to continue taking the greens powder, but do you think maybe it's tipped me over in the amount of vegetables I'm consuming? I've been having loose stools since taking it. Please let me know what I should do. I haven't been taking a probiotic, but do eat fermented vegetables regularly. Do you think that could help? Thanks." Okay, so let's just get right down to it. Just make sure that your fermented vegetables weren't a new introduction within the last couple of weeks as well, because fermented vegetables are far more likely to give you gas than any greens powder. And the reason is that there's very little to ferment in a greens powder because there's really no sugar or fiber. So it's very hard, very, very difficult for that to give you gas. Meaning like that's not a common symptom. People eating beans or chickpeas or like you said, gluten, sure, that can give you symptoms. Dairy, certainly. Fermented vegetables, mainly they come from cabbage, absolutely could give you gas. That, in my opinion, is far more likely. However, I'll always reserve my open mind to say, yeah, I mean, without a doubt, maybe it is too strong for you right now because honestly, we have, without a doubt, the Daily Fruit and Vegetable Blend is the strongest, most potent greens powder you will ever find. Why? The truth is this. I made these nutritional supplements for myself and my family and my private practice. But I said basically, hey, if no one ever takes these supplements, I want them for me. I want the best of the best. My fruit and vegetables is 22 organic fruits and vegetables. No fillers, no inulin, nothing like that. So again, it mixes instantly in water. You can see how easy it is to digest. So what I would say is this. Take out the fermented vegetables. See if you still get the gas, if that's the only thing. Then take out the greens powder for 3 days. Keep your diet exactly the same. See if the gas clears up. If it does, okay, maybe it's that greens powder. What I would do is this. Start taking the probiotic, the daily probiotic support. Let's get that gut flora back to a place where it's able to use all these greens. That would be my highest recommendation. And then I would start with just 1 teaspoon of the greens powder, squeeze some fresh lemon in there by itself, rather than doing 1 tablespoon. So start with 1 teaspoon. That's very, very big. Remember, when I was studying as a GAPS practitioner as well under Dr. Natasha McCampbell, can't remember her last name off the top of my head, but Dr. Natasha will call it for right now. And we had to start people with some fermented vegetables sometimes with simply literally a 1/4 of a teaspoon. And sometimes they couldn't do that. So all we used was the juice, like a teaspoon of the juice. So we knew that some of these things might be healthy for them. Again, not for everyone because of histamine issues and all sorts of things. But we wanted to start with something. So that's what we did. I do hope that that helps. I mean, that's the game plan. Come off of it completely, then start with just 1 teaspoon. Try it by itself. Squeeze some fresh lemon in with you if you would like, and I think you'll be totally fine. But again, the Dr. Cabral Daily Protocol will be the daily probiotic, the all-in-one for your smoothie, and the greens powder. That's what I do every single day. I hope that works for you as well. All right, Annie is up next. Let's see. Annie is our last question of the day. She's writing in, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I have been on a health journey for a little over a year now, and although I've seen improvements, I still have some chronic issues that I'd love to get your thoughts on because I seem to be plateaued. And although I'm in a much better place, I'm not symptom-free. A little background, though, just so you know, I've been what I have already addressed. I've run multiple CBCs and urine metabolites. I was very estrogen dominant and had high cortisol due to overtraining, but both have been balanced since. Chronic issues on her CBC, she just kind of goes into her lab numbers, which I'm not going to read out loud. You could, of course, go to our podcast show notes to read her question, or right on iTunes. You can click on the show description for that. Apart from the numbers, I have physical symptoms that are driving my search still. I have skin issues, acne, melasma, and the backs of my arms are flush, slightly bumpy. I have a little bit of stubborn belly fat and some digestive discomfort still, even when eating to the sensitive gut protocol. I'm on week 9 of the yeast and bacterial cleanse, and I have seen decrease in bloating and some belly fat. But I'm not sure SIBO or candida is 100% my problem. My belly gurgles, and almost always I have a little bit of gas after a meal. I have regular healthy bowel movements 1 to 2 daily. I stuck to the program, so I have been gluten, dairy, and sugar-free for over 2 months now. I've done the 7-day detox, and I've added detox efforts to my lifestyle. I've cleaned up a lot of the products in my home, appreciating my health for what it is, but I'd be much more grateful if I was healthier. I plan to run your organic acids test when I'm through the gut protocol. I'm very curious about Epstein-Barr virus, my parasites or food sensitivities. Do you think any of my systems warrant a different test? Thank you so much for you do in our community. You are a mentor to all of us without ever meeting us. I'm so grateful for the influence you have in my life. I've reviewed the podcast and I'm constantly sharing links with anyone I think it can help. Looking forward to learning from you and appreciate you so much. Thank you. That means a lot to me, Annie, and I want to see if I can answer this for you. You are someone who still seems like they're dealing with high levels of stress in their life, even if their cortisol levels are showing up normal on their lab tests. What does that mean? Well, it's possible that your cortisol levels are looking normal only because you're burnt out. You know, there's 3 phases of adrenal-based issues. There's the alarm stage, that's high adrenaline or high cortisol output. There's the resistance stage, where your cortisol levels look normal, but you're on the way down the mountain, and you know that because someone has low DHEA, low testosterone, low progesterone, so you can test that on a saliva-based test. Our hormone and adrenal test would show that. And then there's the 3rd stage, which is just low cortisol basically output throughout the day. And then there's the final stage, which is Addison's disease, which is what I had. Again, you're not supposed to come out of that. I did, and I know that there's hope for everyone. You don't seem to obviously be in Addison's, but I know that you're most likely dealing with some real stress-based issues. And I know that you're stressed, and you're totally understandable because, look, you're sick, and I know that you're grateful for the health that you do have, but you want to be better. I was the same exact way, and I struggled like that for a number of years. You know, my highest recommendation is you have to just keep walking down the path. It's not easy, and I'm not saying that it's easy, but it gets better. So my opinion, have a cup of hot ginger tea at a meal. Start to use our daily digestive enzyme with every meal, 1 to 2 capsules every single day. With every single meal. Because right now it seems like since you're in more of a fight or flight based mode, you're probably not bringing blood flow to the stomach. The hydrochloric acid isn't at its level that it should be, which means you're not properly breaking the food down well enough, which means it's moving into your intestines partially undigested. Again, that has nothing to do with candida or bacterial overgrowth. Like you mentioned, that has to do with now food fermenting in your intestines because it was never fully broken down because you didn't produce the HCl that you needed, but you didn't drop the bile that you needed to because there wasn't enough acid. So all of these things are vitally important. The digestive enzyme, the ginger tea, or you could use betaine HCl if you wanted to with a higher meat or higher protein based meal. My first test for you would certainly be, you know what? I was going to say the organic acids test, but I would really like to see probably a hormone based test. Look at those cortisol levels. I would certainly look at that. Do continue down the candida based protocol that you're on, and then finish with 2 to 3 months of the Healthy Gut Support Powder. That will help you to seal up that gut wall. Make sure you are staying away from stimulants, caffeine, any caffeine in general. Try to cut that back, if not eliminate it completely from your diet. Really work on lifestyle, work on stress response, work on meditation, do hatha yoga, do things that you get more enjoyment out of life, start to find more fun, more laughter, more happiness, more community, and start to just ease and relax more into the process. You still have to do the work, but doing the easing into it will then help to better calm that sympathetic nervous system and finally begin to rebuild your body from a nervous system level, which will help repair your hormones, which will help repair your gut function. I know you can do this. I know you will find your answers. I found mine. There are hundreds and hundreds of people writing in our community. They're finding their answers, and there's no reason why you shouldn't find yours as well. Thank you, everyone, for writing into the Cabral Concept. I appreciate every one of your listens, and I'm very grateful that you really come back to the Cabral Concept each and every week. It's my pleasure to bring the show to you. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.